This is The Fifth Estate, a conversation between young African scholars from the Fort Hall School of Government and Professor Mutahi Ngunyi. This week, we were struck by two unrelated things. The first was Raila's running stomach and other stories. Why this became headline news is still a wonder. Our submission is that this was nothing but spin. Raila was executing a scheme. The running stomach was just a decoy. In fact, we have entertained the thought that Raila was not even sick. The second happening of this week was less dramatic. It featured President Uhuru Kenyatta pounding on Turkana Governor Mr. Nanok. Our hunch is that this story was misengineered out of proportion. That the crooked media, as Trump would call it, twisted the story. And in its twisted nature, this story revealed something. If Uhuru is genuine, they call him weak. If he's abrasive, they call him angry. Either way, he loses. And this is why he must focus only on his purpose.
Mr. President, sir, the crooked media is on a mission to destroy you. And this is why to them, Raila's running stomach is a news item. But when you uplift a poor family, connect a small farmer to a market, or reduce the trip to Mombasa to 4 hours, this is not news. Such images of goodness are replaced by images of Raila having a running stomach and food poisoning. This is how low we have sunk. Mr. President, sir, you cannot recite poetry to a man carrying a sword. And this is why this week we enjoyed a tough president pounding on a disrespectful governor. In fact, we want you to look for another governor to pound on. These fellows have lost respect for the presidency, and this is not good for country. And here's our reasoning. From every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. If your actions are good, sir, the reaction will be bad. If your actions are bad, like pounding on the doctors, the reaction will be good. This is why the doctors now want to negotiate.
Our argument for a strongman presidency is inspired by Niccolò Machiavelli. To Machiavelli, there is no morality in politics. In fact, a prince who desires love and conducts his affairs using morality is doomed to fail. A good prince must hate love. He must hate smiling people. And this is because the assassins of the prince are always the people with the biggest smiles. Those who kill the prince politically kill him using a borrowed knife. You never see them coming. And this is why a good prince must be a paranoid prince. He must not be controlled by the affection of the people. He must manipulate people into loving him. Where am I going with this? The real Uhuru Kenyatta is beginning to stand up. Pounding on Nanok unapologetically was brilliant. Wearing his commander-in-chief uniform on Friday was another no-nonsense imagery. Maybe he should wear his ceremonial military uniform to Parliament next week. In sum, people should stop toying around with the presidency.
But we need to temper the idea of a strongman president with a grandmother's tale. A story is told of a bird which had frozen and fallen to the ground in a storm. Frozen and ready to die, a cow walked by and dropped some dung on the frozen bird. To the bird, this was insult added to injury. However, the warmth of the cow dung began to melt the snow on its feathers. This revived the bird, which started to struggle, kicking and screaming. As it struggled to get out, a cat noticed the commotion. The cat decided to help the struggling bird out. But once it was out, the cat saw what looked like Sunday lunch. And so the cat ate him up without a second thought. What is the lesson here for Nanok? Not everyone who dungs on you is your enemy. And not everyone who removes you from dung is your friend.
Our message to Uhuru is simple. Raila is a reckless, old, jobless man. And most men his age are actually eating potatoes with their gums in the villages. But Raila is still strong, but he is also reckless, disruptive, calculating, and effective. He is like Napoleon in George Orwell's novel, Animal Farm. If he cannot have a presidency, Raila will pee all over it. And this is exactly what he is doing right now. The problem though is that as he pees on Uhuru's plans, the pee is beginning to splash on our faces and we don't like it. And because we cannot change Raila, we have to change Uhuru instead. At age 72, Raila's disruptive spirit is actually a condition. It is a sickness, it cannot be changed. But on his part, Uhuru is too nice. And there is nothing as attractive to a bully as a nice person. Uhuru's niceness has bred the disruption in Raila. This is why we must change Uhuru. If we change him from a nice person to a mean, vicious and aggressive person, the country will be safe. If the country falls apart, we will not blame Raila, we will blame Uhuru. And this is why the man to change, in my view, is Uhuru. And his changing of tact right now is a good thing, in my view.
Now we shift gears from President Kenyatta to Raila's story on food poisoning. This story is suspect. Our hypothesis is that there is a crisis in NASA. And to divert attention from this crisis, Raila created a story about food poisoning. This is nothing but spin. But as Raila continues to play with our minds, we should remind him on what really counts from the words of Theodore Roosevelt. He said, "It is not the man who points out how the strong man has stumbled or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The man who carries the day is the man in the arena. This is the man whose face is messy with dust, sweat, and blood. The man who errs and comes short again and again, yet in this state of trying, he does not give up. This man is not the one criticizing and offering no solutions. The man in the arena is the man who tries and tries. And if he fails while daring greatly. This man is not Raila."
On this food poisoning story, we could be dead wrong. And if we are, we must give Raila's story. It is about a shepherd boy whose job it was to take care of the village sheep. Occasionally, the boy got bored and amused himself by screaming, "Wolf! Wolf!" even though there was no wolf. The villagers would stop what they were doing and run to save the sheep from the wolf. But when they got there, the boy would burst out laughing. It would be a joke on the villagers. And the boy did this over and over again. But one day, he saw a real wolf amongst the sheep. Alarmed and frightened, he jumped to his feet and shouted as loudly as he could, "Wolf! Wolf!" But the villagers thought he was being the usual joker. No one came out to defend the sheep. Then the boy ran to the village screaming, "There really is a wolf! Why aren't you coming?" And the village elder replied, "Nobody believes a liar, even when he's telling the truth."
What is our point on Raila crying wolf and whining about a running stomach to the country? This kind of spin can only be found amongst the Russians, and this is why we must turn to them for interpretation. According to Nikita Khrushchev, a former Russian head of state, it is easy to tell a slow-punctured revolutionary. In his words, allow him to preach revolution and lies for the first day. Allow him to preach revolution and lies for the second day. Allow him to preach revolution and lies for the third day. If there are no results on the fourth day, the crowds will tell him, "To hell with you." And this is exactly what Wetangula meant when he told us that Baba is firing blanks. Raila has preached revolution to us 3 times, and in each case, he has not delivered. Now he is at the crucial moment of desperation, the moment where the crowds tell him, "To hell with you." And maybe this is why he is looking for sympathy using a running stomach as an excuse, as though this were a rare disease.